Hello Chiefs, this video will be about the esports meta, how it's evolving, particularly through this Blast tournament, what will it be like during Swiss, and where will it be by the time of Worlds. The September update came with significant changes, a lot of equipments were balanced, there were some troops and spell nerfs, and we got a change to hard mode with equipment level caps as well as some supercharges. In the first few days, esports players found that the old fast strats done exactly in the same way as before are just too risky, leading to many fails and even 1 stars. The teams who made it in the first two qualifiers were not really the traditional strong teams, but mostly teams who adopted the Fireball Super Witch attacks, and it was these Phase 2 teams beating the Phase 1 teams. Many of these teams adopted the Fireball Switch before in Legend, and by focusing on smaller hard mode community tournaments for a couple of months already. There is some interesting data backing this up provided to me by Dolok. You can see that the ranked teams who are top 8 and represented here by the red line briefly dropped below the brown line, which represents the top 20 teams after the September update. And if there was a line representing just the teams ranked 9 to 20, their line would be even higher during that period without the top 8 teams dragging them down. But the top teams didn't just drop just because they were too stuck in the previous esports meta. They were still doing a lot of fast hits to find adjustments to them and for the future. This is best represented by this graph showing that ranked teams still on average triple much faster than the rest, and even when they failed, those fails were also much faster. It is a little bit of a struggle for the top teams, as for example Tribe Gaming, who were on the very top of the competitive meta during the LCQ, struggled a lot during the first 3 qualifiers, and even when they adjusted their game in qualifier 4, they ran into somebody who was a bit faster than them. Because in qualifiers 3 and 4, a lot of teams entered phase 3. They made Fireball Switch attacks safe, and they started more safely reintroducing Root Riders and Fireball Rocket Loon attacks. We also saw some new Fireball Smash attacks with Super Bowlers or E-Titans instead of Super Witches. Bigger teams were back. Silver Ticket Pulse and Moss made it, as well as 2 almost divorced teams, and Mythologia and DZX. The war which looked like old times the most was this one between 2 DZs with a 142 to 144 time average. And Tribe needed to play qualifiers because they weren't invited. They first invited Navi, SG, MMG, and STMN, but STMN, maybe because they wanted to focus on Worlds prep in more secrecy, refused. And then they invited HTM, who were last year's World Champions, ahead of Tribes, who beat them for the golden ticket. These are then the 16 teams who will now compete in the Swiss stage, and I expect the most out of traditionally good teams who aren't competing at Worlds, like HTM, Moss, and Pulse, because they are the ones who should go full throttle here, while the Worlds teams might just hold back some of their powers. So let's try to predict the Swiss meta. I think if you put up decent bases and just get 15 stars, you will still end up with at least 3 and 2 and move on to the finals. But there will be a good number of double perfect wars too. Teams will start polishing up their Fireball Smash hits to be a bit faster, and there will be a lot more good ground spam hits than in the qualifiers, and maybe even Dragons come back. Theoretically, maybe Inferno Dragons can do well because those heavy anti-Super Witch bases with Rage Towers and single Infernos could be vulnerable to them. The teams who will do the best in Swiss will be the ones who know when to put up all anti-Fireball Smash bases and when to put up bases which are a bit better against ground spam. Similar as during Town Hall 15 when you had a different style of base when playing against Sarge teams and Dragon Spam teams and other top teams. Then in the finals, Fireball Smash will start being phased out as it has an upper limit to how quick you can make it. It can be quicker by reducing the Fireball setup time, dropping the Shield Rocket RC on the other side of the Smash very soon with lots of cleanup behind it, and maybe be even doing the Fireball on the fly during the Smash, but still, the ground and air spam will be back in a bigger way than ever, and bases will need to adjust to mostly defending them. And finally, by the time Worlds comes, we will go back almost full circle. It might not be the exact troop compositions who were dominant before, but we will go back to fast ground, fast air, and fast fireball damage equipment Rocket Loon attacks. I think the first team to fail will always lose, and that won't be too exciting when the first hitter tries to put pressure by doing a 90-second attack, fails, and then we already know who wins because everybody switches to safer attacks. But maybe I'm wrong. What do you think the meta will look like at Worlds? Tell me in the comments and have fun playing and watching the Swiss stage.